the work every day, and there was this big neon sign. It was blue and white.
She was luminous, unmistakable. Every flashbulb seemed to recognize her before her name was even spoken. Yet behind those camera flashes was a life collapsing under its own weight. The image promised power, desire, immortality. The reality was isolation, dependency, and a long descent into public dissection. She wanted to be seen. She never expected to be consumed. Why did Anna Nicole Smith, once America's modern-day Marilyn, become the very cautionary tale she swore she'd never be? Stay with this story, because the truth behind the fame is far more haunting than the headlines ever allowed. She was born Vicki Lynn Hogan on November 28, 1967, in Houston, Texas. Her mother, Virgie Mae Arthur, worked as a deputy sheriff. Her father was largely absent. The childhood was not one of glitter or expectation. It was working class, often lonely, punctuated by the tension of a girl who dreamed far beyond the limits of a small Texas town. Teachers remembered her as polite but distracted, daydreaming of movie stars. At Mexia High School, she struggled academically and left before graduating. The exit was quiet. No one could have guessed that the dropout would one day become a tabloid empire unto herself. Early jobs at fried chicken counters and Walmart stores kept her afloat. She married young, just 17, to Billy Wayne Smith, a cook she met while working at Jim's Crispy Fried Chicken. They had a son, Daniel, but little else. Money was tight, opportunities scarce, and by her early 20s she was separated and adrift. In Houston, she reinvented herself. The shift began in a strip club called Gigi's. There she traded the worn jeans of Mexia for high heels and a stage name. It wasn't glamour, but it was control. At least for a while. The customers saw fantasy. She saw survival. She had no manager, no studio, just the understanding that beauty could be currency. A photographer spotted her and suggested modeling. That introduction changed everything. In 1992, under the name Anna Nicole Smith, she appeared in Playboy. The centerfold ignited instantly. Full-bodied curves, platinum hair, that distant half-smile that echoed 1950s pinups. Hugh Hefner called her a throwback to the golden age of glamour. And the issue sold wildly. Overnight, the small-town dropout became Playmate of the Year and found herself compared to Marilyn Monroe. It was the first time she realized the public could love a version of her she barely recognized. Success multiplied quickly. The Guess Jeans campaign followed. Black and white photos shot by Ellen von Unwerth that turned her into an American archetype. The styling was deliberate, a sultry innocence, lips parted in uncertainty, body angled like the past itself. She wasn't just selling jeans. She was selling nostalgia. The image was everywhere. Billboards, magazines, late-night talk shows. But beneath the persona, Anna struggled. Friends from that period recalled how she would oscillate between euphoric confidence and quiet insecurity. "They love me today," she once said, "but they'll move on tomorrow." Fame had come fast, but structure had not. There was no mentor guarding her contracts, no financial counsel. Every photo shoot was a negotiation between opportunity and exploitation. Then came J. Howard Marshall II. The meeting in 1991 was almost cinematic. He was an 86-year-old Texas oil billionaire. She was a 24-year-old model working a promotional event. He was captivated. Over the next few years, he showered her with gifts, cars, jewelry, offers of security. In 1994, they married. The age gap, more than 60 years, became national news, and the reaction was merciless. Late-night comedians mocked her as a gold digger. Tabloids ran her wedding photo beside headlines about greed. But she maintained, publicly and privately, that she loved him. "He cared for me when no one else did," she told reporters.
I want people to understand. Forget about the damn age. He saved my life and I saved his life. He took me out of a terrible place and he cares for me and my son.
Whether love or loyalty or escape, the marriage gave her stability. Yet it also cemented a perception she could never erase, that every affection in her life was transactional. When Marshall died in 1995, she expected the security he'd promised. Instead, she entered a legal war that would last more than a decade. His son, E. Pierce Marshall, contested her claim to the estate, accusing her of manipulation. The case became spectacle. Anna arriving in designer suits, sometimes late, sometimes disoriented, always photographed. The media dissected each expression, every stumble, every whispered comment. According to court documents, she was living on appearance fees and minor film roles.
Just up there making stuff up as you go along.
I am not making anything up, Presty.
Bit parts in The Hudsucker Proxy, 1994, and Naked Gun 3313. The contrast between courtroom reality and cinematic illusion could not have been sharper. In one world, she was objectified. In the other, she was dismissed. Both worlds required her to perform. Behind that performance, her health began to falter. She suffered from chronic pain, reportedly after cosmetic surgeries that included breast augmentation and weight fluctuations from prescription diet drugs. Painkillers entered her routine. Friends and bodyguards would later testify that she mixed medications casually, antidepressants, sedatives, muscle relaxants, believing each pill was a tool to stay upright, to stay photogenic. The dependency wasn't glamorous, it was maintenance. At the same time, her relationship with the media became toxic. Every gain invited ridicule. Every misstep became proof of instability. She was simultaneously mocked for being unintelligent and exploited for her vulnerability. Could any person survive a spotlight that bright with no shade in sight? By 2002, reality television discovered her. The Nicole Show premiered on E! And turned her chaos into entertainment. Cameras followed her around her Los Angeles home with her assistant Kim and lawyer companion Howard K. Stern. The editing leaned on absurdity, slurred speech, confused monologues. Her interactions with pets. Audiences laughed. Ratings soared. But privately, crew members described moments of quiet sadness, times when she would stare off and whisper that she missed her son. Daniel, then a teenager, had grown up largely shielded from the public eye. He was her anchor. When she saw him, the composure returned. When he left, the emptiness rushed back. It was as if the world had split into two versions of her, the caricature on screen and the woman desperate for normality. The years that followed blurred together. Legal battles over Marshall's fortune dragged on. Public appearances became increasingly erratic. Award shows where she slurred her words. Interviews that sparked concern. Her attorney tried to reframe the narrative. Anna is eccentric, not impaired. But each incident chipped away at credibility. She was ridiculed for weight gain, for fashion choices, for simply aging in front of the same cameras that once adored her. There was no room for reinvention. Hollywood had already decided what Anna Nicole Smith represented, the doomed blonde archetype. In September 2006, she gave birth to a daughter, Danny Lynn Hope. The joy was immediate and overwhelming. She posted photos of herself cradling the newborn, telling friends that motherhood had given her a reason to stay clean. But within days, tragedy struck. Her son Daniel, just 20, visited her in the hospital. According to reports, he sat beside her bed, kissed her forehead, then suddenly collapsed. The autopsy ruled a lethal combination of methadone and antidepressants. He died in the same hospital room where his sister had been born 3 days earlier. Those close to Anna said she screamed for hours, inconsolable. "He was my everything," she told Stern. The pain eclipsed everything else. Public sympathy returned, briefly, but the damage inside was irreversible. In the months that followed, she relocated to the Bahamas seeking privacy. Paparazzi followed. She filed paternity suits, endured DNA demands, and faced mounting pressure from sponsors and the press. Weight loss ads she had endorsed were pulled. Magazine offers evaporated. Friends described her as alternating between determination and despair. Her medications increased: methadone, chloral hydrate, anti-anxiety drugs. There were reports of confusion, of her dozing off mid-conversation. Yet she remained convinced she could rebuild. "I'll show them," she said to a cameraman one afternoon. "I'll be back." February 8th, 2007, Hollywood, Florida. The Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. She was staying in room 607, reportedly sick with fever and flu-like symptoms. Her companion, Howard K. Stern, and bodyguard's wife were in adjacent rooms. Just after 1 p.m., she was found unresponsive. Emergency responders rushed her to Memorial Regional Hospital, but resuscitation failed. At 2:49 p.m., Anna Nicole Smith was pronounced dead at 39. The coroner's report cited accidental. Combined drug intoxication. No foul play, no conspiracy, just the slow, cumulative weight of everything she'd been prescribed to endure. The aftermath was chaos. Custody battles over Danny Lynn, questions about inheritance, televised funerals, leaked autopsy photos. The public, which had watched her self-destruct for years, now mourned her as a lost icon. Commentators drew parallels to Monroe again, Two blondes consumed by fame and pharmaceuticals. But that comparison, while inevitable, overlooked the economic and social machinery that fed her downfall. Anna was not merely a victim of vanity. She was evidence of how an entertainment ecosystem monetized collapse. Every stumble was content. Every misfortune a headline. The court fights that followed were less about justice and more about possession. Of her estate, her memory, her daughter's story. Years later, the legal tangle still lingered. In 2011, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against her estate in the final appeal over Marshall's fortune. The sum she once expected, hundreds of millions, never arrived. What remained were photographs, reruns, and a narrative rewritten by documentaries and retrospectives. Netflix, ABC, and others revisited her life, each asking the same question. Who was Anna Nicole Smith, really? Her friends insisted she was kind, insecure, funny. Journalists pointed to addiction and manipulation. Psychologists cited trauma and identity diffusion. The truth was all of it, and none of it. She had become myth. If you look closely at her story, you see the anatomy of a system, the rise from poverty through commodified beauty. The substitution of management for mentorship, the press cycle that builds and breaks its subjects. She entered fame in the early 1990s when tabloid television was hungry for spectacle, before social media, but with the same predatory speed. Every detail of her body, her courtroom tears, her liaisons, became public property. Few realized she had no protective infrastructure. There was no publicist filtering calls, no crisis manager, no digital firewall. The same openness that made her relatable made her defenseless. She once said in an interview, "People think I'm stupid, but I'm not. I just have bad luck." That sentence captures the melancholy of her myth. She understood her reputation, knew how it was weaponized, and still couldn't change it. Each attempt at seriousness, acting, business ventures, philanthropy, was drowned out by the echo of the caricature. The woman the world saw was a performance built to protect the one they ignored. When her body was carried out of that Florida hotel, the flashbulbs returned for one last feed. Even in death, she was spectacle. In retrospect, her life traces the outline of modern celebrity culture. The rapid ascent, the invasive scrutiny, the collapse broadcast in real time. Yet to reduce her to a tragedy is to miss the persistence beneath it. She kept trying. Court appeal after court appeal. Interview after humiliation, always searching for a stable version of herself that fame refused to allow. Maybe that's the real legacy. Not the downfall, but the endurance. How many could survive even half of what she endured and still smile for the lens? Today, her daughter Danny Lynn lives with her father, Larry Burkhead, largely away from publicity. On anniversaries, he shares photos of mother and child, reminders that behind the headlines was a family story, unfinished. Biographers now revisit Anna Nicole's tapes and interviews, studying the way she spoke about control, identity, and respect. The narrative that once painted her as a punchline has begun to soften. She was both participant and casualty in a cultural shift that blurred entertainment and voyeurism. So what do we learn when we re-examine her life? That fame can magnify pain until it looks like performance. That a person can be publicly adored and privately abandoned. And that every photograph hides a cost no camera can show. Anna Nicole Smith's story is not just about one woman. It's about an era that equated attention with love and headlines with existence. We may think we know her, but what we really know is the silhouette of a system that built her up only to sell her downfall. In the end, the lights dim, the cameras fade, and we are left with a question. How many other Anna Nicoles are we creating right now? If stories like this remind you that every legend has a price, stay with us, subscribe, share, and keep watching. Because behind every image, there's a human story the spotlight almost erased.